All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the January edition of Frank Talks. We are delighted to have you all join us today. For those new to Frank Talks, we are an initiative hosted by Frank Fam, a full-service agency specializing in communication, branding, CX, engineering, media, and storytelling. And our belief is that by integrating these disciplines in a cross-functional manner, we can create truly meaningful and impactful results. If you're interested in learning more about us, please visit our website at frankfam.co. Today's talk will last approximately 25 minutes, followed by a Q&A session. And we encourage you to send your questions, reflections, or thoughts in the Zoom chat during the presentation. And we will address them afterwards in what is often a really interesting part of Frank Talk. So please stay tuned for that. I should also say that this session will be recorded and later published on our blog space called Goodreads. Now I have the great pleasure of presenting our speaker for this Frank Talk, Caroline Strömgren. She is highly experienced when it comes to branding, strategy, and creative processes. And she has worked with a number of major brands. And we are really grateful that Caroline is head of design and communication at Frank Fam. Welcome, and please go ahead, Caroline.
Thank you so much, Mikael. Well, yeah, one thing is for sure, I truly love the creative process and facilitating them. So that's why I chose the topic of today's talk, how to max your creative output. I have experienced situations where organizations, sorry, that was too quick, but I've experienced situations where organizations don't handle this process in the most efficient way, or they miss the chance of getting the most out of their talent. And I often think that they're not even aware of this. 85% of executives agree that creativity is critical for driving business success. Yet, only 30% believe their organization is truly creative. So today I'm going to show you how to unlock creativity in your organization. Together, we'll explore the 5 keys to fostering creativity that lead to high-quality ideas and groundbreaking solutions. But first, let's take a moment to understand what creativity truly means. Many people think of artistic expressions that communicate and speak to our emotions when thinking of creativity. The composer Benny Andersson, one-fourth of ABBA and creator of multiple musicals, etc., he's perceived as extremely creative. But he once said that he plays the piano several hours, 365 days a year, and that results in about 40 minutes of music a year. So creativity is hard work, and it's very much a process. Creativity is about seeing things from multiple perspectives, identifying patterns and synergies, and creating something unique out of that. It's about innovating and solving problems, not just solving them efficiently, but doing so in unconventional and in new ways. Like advertise Colgate on ice cream sticks, that's creative. Airbnb renting out a replica of the mansion from Beetlejuice, or from the house from the Pixar movie Up. Or finding new use of your kid's neglected Hulk hands or Lego figures. But why do we need to be creative? Why do organizations want to be creative and talk about themselves as creative? Well, it's about managing competition, which is, of course, of big business interest. To come up with ways of delivering value and to communicate in a way that differentiates and sets you apart from your competitors. To be able to do that, you need to foster creative thinking. Companies often want to be seen as creative to attract talent. but you can't call yourself creative just because you have a community table or table tennis at the office. If you hire creative people, you need to deliver the right conditions for them to deliver what you ask of them. So this talk is about guiding you to create those conditions and processes to make sure you can get the most out of your investment of time and talent. So I'm going to guide you through 5 parameters you need to have in place to be able to call yourself a creative company. Insight for focus, time to explore, psychological safety, creative processes, and fruitful collaboration. First out is insight for focus. If we think of art, that is creative ideas and manifestations sprung out of an individual and their perception of life and areas of engagement. And it can take any direction, and this can be very creative, but it's not efficient or it's not effective when you need to be relevant for a specific target audience. When running a business or consulting for clients with a specific user in mind, you need to frame your boundaries for the idea so that you will create meaning and relevant solutions, and to meet the strategic goals you have set up. To reach a goal, you need to know where to start. If you aim to innovate, you need a clear starting point and frames to challenge. To view things from new and varied perspectives, you must understand what users expect and what competitors are doing. So what is the problem? What questions do you want to address? Who's the audience? The more clearly defined, the easier it is to get started. A solid understanding and well-defined perspective provide the foundation to focus on the right things, to come up with ideas that challenge the norm and are highly creative. Putting the effort into finding new insights is unfortunately too often something that gets down prioritized. It gets cut out of the process for budget reasons, and this will not be beneficial for resonating with your target audience and to stand out against competition and create innovative solutions. Because if you don't put in the time for the strategic foundation, you're not sure you're creating your ideas based on the right things. And if you still don't have the possibility to do a solid insight phase before the creation starts, make sure to create some boundaries based on hypotheses that you and the team agree on and the client accepts. Because you need to have a stepping stone for the ideas and know what problems they should solve. Second key for creating the most out of your team is time to explore. So if your organization aspires to be progressive, it must allocate time to test new approaches and techniques. If projects are planned based on past timelines, there's no room to try untested methods. There's no room to fail or learn from mistakes. So you need to plan for exploration and allow time to test different paths. Creative professionals need this time to develop their skills, to satisfy their creative curiosity, and you need to have this in place to attract the best talent. So without the opportunity to explore, an organizations risk being a production house rather than a creative player. Time is also necessary for gathering inspiration, reflecting, and testing ideas on others. And you want to be able to sleep on it. That also gains a new perspective when you see it the day after. However, having time doesn't mean passively waiting for ideas to strike. As Ben Andersson said, it's hard work. And creative processes like design thinking provide structured steps to navigate the innovation journey with control. So it's about focusing on the right things at the right stages, remaining open-minded in the beginning, then evaluating, testing, and refining based on established strategies. Project management and creative direction play vital roles here. To be able to learn from failures, you need psychological safety. Psychological safety can be defined as an employee's perception of being able to show and be their true self without fear of negative consequences for their self-image, their status, or career. So you need to create an environment where employees feel free to think openly. They should feel safe sharing even the most obvious ideas. And when you're in an ideation session and, expressing their thoughts without fear of sounding foolish, so the quirky and the irrational ideas often serve as a spark for brilliant ones. So you want to welcome that and create a feeling of safety. To innovate, people need the space to play with ideas, conduct tests, and share failures as learning opportunities for others. Many organizations struggle here as employees may hesitate to admit mistakes or ideas that didn't work out. Instead of prioritizing speed, did I jump? Sorry.
If you jump.
No. Sorry. Organizations should foster innovation and encourage initiative. So openness and attentiveness and processes that gives everyone a voice creates this sense of safety. And you can practice supporting colleagues' ideas and opinions with phrases like, "Thank you for sharing," and "That's a great point. I hadn't thought of that. I haven't thought about it in that way. Let me add to that." So when you foster an organization like that, your team dare to air the most twisted ideas, like this one for Burger King. So those ideas might be the ones that give you the most attention. So what we're seeing here is the moldy Whopper to demonstrate that Burger King's burger don't contain any artificial preservatives. And it gained a lot of attention when it was released. So going into your next meeting, you can set up a rule to forbid the words "no but" and instead say "yes and." So this helps you to get a flow and come up with more ideas. Then if you find problems with ideas before you have all of your possibilities on the table, there's no reason to address difficulties with the ideas at that stage, which means no buts. In the next step, when prioritizing based on feasibility, strategy, etc., then the problematic and difficult ideas will be put aside anyway. So this yes and approach will create an atmosphere and foster a culture of everyone feeling comfortable to share ideas and brainstorm freely. So insights, time, and psychological safety are things that need to be in the creative process. The word process may sound dull and uncreative, but there are processes designed to foster creativity. As I mentioned earlier, processes allows us to enter the right mental state and focus on one thing at a time. The process takes you through different steps. First, you need to dig into the strategic material at hand, understand and get to know who you're targeting. So that's the stepping stone and insight for focus, right? Then you need to search for inspiration, for input. Look at related fields or services used by the audience to benchmark. Then you're ready to enter the creative ideation phase. Make sure you go in with an open mindset. So here's where psychological safety is of big importance and help us tremendously. And plan your brainstorming sessions. Each ideation session is like a process in itself. You should have a plan for the outcome of the meeting and lead your participants through different focus stages. And I would like to paint an example. And this is a fictional illustration of what I'm talking about. For example, imagine you're a bookstore and you have a mission to get kids to read more. You start off with the target audience, the kids in this case. So what do they do with their time instead of reading? You might have that insight on their activities that you're competing with. And you might find areas of interest to ideate around. You could find an area around imagination and fantasy that's connected to their, wishes to create. And and how they love stories. And you can ideate around gamification and medals connected to games and sports. That's an interesting field. So find different focus areas and start ideating. So all these red dots are different ideas. You can connect some connect to build on each other. And that will lead you to some more prioritized or more worked through ideas. And then prioritize based on strategy or user testing. So this could be how Akademibokhandeln, a Swedish bookstore, came up with this idea of creating small pins that looks very much like the Swedish swimming medals if you learn to swim. So the kids' interest of gaming and sports lead to ideas around medals and something that gives a sense of achievement and feeling proud. So what they did was you could read 5 books and pick up a pin at the store. And when IKEA wanted to create a campaign for their bedding items, the process could have been something like this, just to paint a picture. You have some associations around sleep. That could be one way to enter an ideation session. We talk about deep sleep, sleep as a princess, pillow talk, sweet dreams, beauty sleep, counting sheep. We have a lot of ideas, and then maybe you pick one and you start to elaborate and open up again. What do people do to become beautiful? Instead of sleep, what do we do? Well, we do hair removal, makeup, creams, fillers and Botox, digital filters, of course, supplements, and that will could lead you to an idea like this. And it could how they ended up with this truly creative campaign. And it's the result of finding the right angle that is memorable and spot on. And when deciding on the angle, this is where the brand attributes and values serve as strategic direction for the communication. In this case, I would guess that this, the IKEA brand would eliminate associations to Botox and fillers and lead to this example of natural supplements to convey the same message. Some people feel anxious in the beginning of a creative process. They're not feeling certain that they will end up with a creative or innovative solution. And this is okay. It's about learning to trust the process. Successful creative processes often surprise you when looking back at the result. Proper planning and good leadership through the process build a feeling of trust and enables exploration, failures, and lead to creative breakthroughs. So I wonder if you've ever been invited to a room for an ideation session to brainstorm without any structure. You enter wondering if you would come up with any good ideas at all. And you might feel a bit stressed and anxious about it. But if you enter a session when a facilitator takes you through the different steps of what drives the audience, what makes them feel a certain way, the way that we strategically want them to feel, having a well-planned ideation session will ensure you to come up with ideas from different perspectives that are still connected to the strategy. And the participants can relax and trust the process. To practice this, there are good facilitating tips and tools to reach for on the internet, or you can take help from an experienced facilitator, because structured work sessions are more effective than entering meetings without clear agenda. That's for sure. So perspectives arise from diverse experiences. The more varied the backgrounds of the individuals involved, the better the foundation for innovation. Therefore, collaboration is of big importance for creative outcome. And you can go through a creative process, have the solid insights as a foundation. You can plan the time for exploration all on your own, but the quality won't be the same. Collaboration and feedback generate new hybrid ideas, combining parts of 2 or more ideas, Discussing ideas with others and hearing their input helps develop and refine creative concepts. By building on each other's ideas, embracing the yes and approach, you create stronger outcome. And I know I'm repeating myself a bit now, but there is one thing that I want to address. Most organizations recognize the importance of collaboration. But a common pitfall is that it's that only the loudest voices dominate discussions. Research suggests that when certain individuals dominate groups' interactions, it can inhibit the creative thinking of other members. People that are extroverts or just senior individuals at a company, they feel more comfortable to share their thoughts and often take the lead in a discussion. And this is not anything to criticize because we need these people, but we need to be aware of this and to ensure that speaking opportunities are distributed evenly among all contributors. So facilitators and structure meeting processes, again, this can help balance input and amplify all voices in the room. And one easy action is to always start off with a silent idea generation, where participants privately reflect and record their ideas without being disturbed or drag their focus in a specific direction. Some individuals, even if you do this, some individuals may naturally generate more ideas than others, but these ideas from the creative people can be refined, expanded, and prioritized with the input from the group. So if these idea generators are smart enough, they don't dominate or try to shine with their ideas. Instead, they should remain open and interested about what others in the room have to contribute. In other words, humble and curious creative leadership is essential for being a truly creative organization. My primary point I want to make with fruitful collaboration is that you need to ensure multiple perspectives and that everyone in the team gets their thoughts heard. And I want to give you a tip on how to gain even more perspectives, extending the team you have allocated for the task. Today, generative AI is now an extra voice. So prompt the question, the problem you're trying to solve, and see what AI responds. Put those ideas into the open part of the process. You should start off by letting all humans ideate and come up with their ideas first, but then present the input from ChatGPT, Copilot, or whatever, and try to build on it. Or let it spark your ideas with those inputs to then pick the ideas to continue developing. To make sure that AI is relevant to your strategy, I want to refer back to the importance of the insight phase. So if you have defined drivers of importance for your audience and formulated the questions you're searching the answers to, feed this information to the generative AI tool and get the answers that will be useful. And that is same as for us humans, really. Okay, so now we've reached the end of the list. So here are the 5 keys for generating high-level creative solutions. So take a moment to reflect. Does your organization or team live up to these things fully? Maybe you can write down one thing from what you've heard that you'll implement in your work. And share it with a colleague afterwards to get feedback or spark a new idea on what to do differently going forward. And if you have questions or you need support, please feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to help you plan workshops or design processes that elevate creativity in your organization. But before I leave the word back to Mikael and your questions, I want to give you some more creative examples where creativity have had an opportunity to flourish. So thinking in new unconventional ways may lead to more cost-efficient ideas that also might be more impactful. Like in this example, when thinking further than the traditional movie poster, when promoting the movie It. Or when Google Maps let you turn your map into a Pac-Man game on a certain locations in 2015. Or when Bolt let their product add to the Christmas spirit when ordering a lift. And when Netflix last month promoted the new season of Squid Game, and this group of game leaders from the show could be seen walking the streets of Stockholm. You need to take your time to stop, reflect, and challenge the brief to be able to find unexpected ways of delivering your message. In this case, where they sell speakers in an unconventional way. So these great ideas arise from openness and good organizational conditions for creatives. And that was all I had. Thank you for listening.
All right. Thank you very much, Caroline. A very interesting talk with many useful learnings and tips. I'm sure that many would agree with me. And we do have some questions that I hope you would like to answer. And if you have more questions, please put them in the Zoom chat and we'll address them. But starting off with this one, what do you see as the biggest obstacle to implementing this in an organization?
I think one problem can be that if the leaders are very dominant, to pick a path too quickly, maybe, and just run with it. It might be a great idea, but if you don't gather the team to get their input, they don't feel like they're, have had their say. They hadn't had the opportunity to refine or reflect around it. If you do this, take the time to gather the team and talk about the ideas before you just go with it. They will feel ownership. The team will feel ownership of it, even if it was one individual or a leader's idea. And I think when it is just a leader doing that, it can be very hard to say something about it. And so that's an issue. I also, from my own opinion, it can go so quickly, like you don't have the time to plan a creative session. I think that's very good that you plan it so you have, it's well prepared for what you want to come up with, to value the creative minds that are in the room. I would say those things.
Great. And what kind of insight do you need in a creative project? What kind of insight do you need?
Well, it depends on the project, of course. If it's an existing product or service, going mystery shopping or doing interviews and, all of those kind of research tools is very useful. But sometimes you're creating a totally new service or communicating something totally new. Then I think the main thing is for you to understand the world that the target audience is living in. What other kind of products or services do they use and see? Because what they're using, what they're seeing will impact how they perceive you. So that's find those kind of relevant insights going into the creative process.
And this one is quite funny question, I'd say. What is a good idea? When do you know that an idea is a good one? It's a bit tricky.
Yeah, I think if you are a group in a room and you will get a feeling of which one rest people, something happens when you hear it. And maybe you do a dot voting and you can see that this is something that people find interesting. Often it is like easy solutions. You just see the red thread, something that connects, like I would say the IKEA example with the bedding, beauty sleep and bedding. But of course, you can't really know until you test it on the target audience, because it's a good idea. It has to be good for the group you're creating the idea for. And very often it's not the same people as who are creating them. So I would say do a focus group, or just test on the target audience, I would say.
All right. And what happens if you run out of ideas?
Well, there are some techniques that experienced facilitators use. It can be everything from let's take a break. As I said before, sleep on something, go do something else, come back. I would think that is one thing. It could just also be you have allocated this time, but just stand up or move your body or do something that shakes you, gets you in a new mode is one thing. But there's also a lot of stimuli or unexpected, try to think from another angle. What would Jabba the Hutt do or Mother Teresa do in this? So try to set your mind in someone else's mind or another from different perspectives. That often just are some keys to get going again.
Great. What would Jabba the Hutt do? All right. So, do you know if there is any time of the day? Sorry. Do you know if there is any time of day or day of the week when a team has a higher creative output?
I think probably there is some there is a right answer. But I'm come to think of a couple, because usually it's it's Friday afternoon, you're feeling vibey, and let's get the team together on Friday afternoon and have this fun workshop. But I think it's also a psychological thing every Monday that's you're more open to try new things, it's a new start. In the beginning of the year, it's let's try to do things a new way. So that could also be a thing. Just start off Monday with a new perspective and just coming from the weekend and not having your head full of other ideas and stuff. So either that, but I think also it could be talking about perspective and setting yourself in a mode. Maybe take the team out for a lunch at a place you never go to before or something to set the scene, and then maybe any day would be great. Yeah.
And here comes another question. I can feel more productive and creative when I'm under time pressure, when a deadline is approaching. Why is that?
Well, it depends on how you handle it. I'm guessing that this person is, if you have limited time, you have to set boundaries for yourself. It's okay, how much can I do? I start with this. This is the focus part, as I was talking about earlier. Also, so if you have set frames and focus within a specific, then it's easier to be creative. Maybe you need the boundaries for creativity to stretch. If you go into and you have too much all time in the world, and you have a unlimited budget and something, it could be even harder to get going. And so maybe that's the reason, I'm guessing.
All right, and I think we have one last question here, quite a long one here. I feel that some colleagues, often the most senior ones, talk and take up the most space. And I like to listen and gather information before I say anything. Therefore, it's difficult to get my suggestions through. Do you have, it feels like you have addressed this a bit, but the person here asks, do you have any tips on how to solve this?
Yeah, that was as I had as an example, just start off by letting everyone, write their ideas, because before you even start, because if you start talking about and getting people's minds into one kind of angle, then it's hard to go back to have the open mind. I think this person can, talking about psychological safety again, dare to say that, like, stop, can we please just record and everyone can write down their ideas before everyone starts talking. I think that's the best way. And again, to find different perspectives, and if you haven't that, isn't that planned, and you have a leader that is just started talking, maybe also like, stop, can we start with like labeling different views or perspectives that we're gonna ideate under before we just start, so we don't lose. Then you can go from theme to theme, or I don't know. Yeah.
All right. So if we have no more questions, no, not at the moment. Okay, so I would like to take the opportunity to thank everyone who has listened, and thank you again to you, Caroline. Keep an eye out on Meetup for more Frank Talks, and if you want to get in touch with Caroline, you can find her at frankfam.co. All right, thank you very much, and have a nice evening.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.